He's right at the border.
Right at the border. I mean, go across the street. It's a big.
You've
Across the
done
street.
it. You've done
This regular meeting of the Nevada City Council to order on Monday, September 13th, 2021 at 6:00 p.m. Can we get a roll call, please?
Here. Jim Spence.
Here.
Brian Garrett.
Here.
Dave Nielsen.
Here.
Jason Sampson.
Here.
Brian Hanson.
Here. Okay, first item is approval of the agenda. Second. Brian and Dane, any discussion? Seeing none, council please vote. Is approved. Takes us to the consent agenda. Any item may be removed for separate consideration. No, Barb had discussed potentially pulling anything out of there. You good then? Okay.
Second.
Jason, Sandy, any discussion? Seeing none, council please vote. Approved. Takes us to the public forum, which is time set aside for comments from the public on topics of city business other than those listed on the agenda. No action may be taken. Is there anyone here to speak in the public forum? None. We'll close the public forum. Move on to old business. There's ordinance number 1019, 2021, 2022, an ordinance amending chapter 69, parking regulations of the city code to establish no parking. Second reading.
Approve.
Okay. Barb. Second. Brian.
Barb, gotcha.
Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, council please vote. Barb's quieter, but I gave it to her anyway.
That's all right.
Fine. I didn't get to talk.
Okay, that is approved. Takes us to item B, Central Business District Infrastructure Project Construct LLC. Number 1 is a prepaid request number 15 in the amount of $649,513.06.
Second.
Luke and Jason. Seeing no discussion, council please vote. It is approved. Takes us to item 2, approve change order number 6 in the amount of $4,890.95. Move to approve.
Second.
Brian and Sandy.
There was some question about why we're paying this. Get some.
So we provide some clarification on how we're going to be making this up on the back end for it, please.
It will be reimbursed as credit on the bill towards the engineering for the project.
All right. Thank you, Larry.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, council please vote. That is approved. Takes us to item C, discussion appropriate follow-up regarding COVID-19 procedures. You know, staff did some discussion about that, so I'll probably kick it over to Jordan and then open it up to council for discussion.
Yeah, so we discussed a couple of different things. We discussed the policy that we have currently in place as well as face masks. Face masks, we decided to leave up to a personal discretion. And then for the policy, we're going to be separating as much as possible solo patrols for our police department. Our staff has stepped up on their cleaning more frequently. We've also hired or had our cleaning lady come in on a more regular basis as well. We're going to be taking out the critical infrastructure reading because we believe that everybody should be following the exact same guidelines. So we'll probably be looking for a little bit more guidance on that, on what to be looking for. Well, also, we're going to be requiring 2 negative tests in order to come back to work, but as I got a message from the mayor, those tests aren't really accurate, and they can be inaccurate for several months after.
You can continue to test positive long after the contagious period, so.
So I don't want to do that, because if, say, 10 days later, if one of our staff members do test, then they could be completely cleared, but still the test could be inaccurate. So,
And I'd probably recommend we put in there to follow current CDC guidelines, whatever they happen to be at the time. And if I'm recalling right, it's 10 days, 24-hour fever-free and improved symptoms.
yeah.
So not all the way gone symptoms. Some people have their lingering loss of taste and smell and all those things, but
But when is that gonna take effect?
Right now.
No, as far as, is there gonna have to be proof that they tested positive?
Oh, well, that's kind of we are looking for guidance on. We have the exposure, sick, and the COVID diagnosis, but depending on the test, we're just kind of confused. We're just kind of curious on where to go from that, because I mean, where do you start and where do you stop? I mean, say you're exposed but you're vaccinated for 15 minutes, and then, well, do you need to get tested? Probably not, unless you start feeling sick. But so I guess need a little bit more guidance.
I think that maybe since we met, the vaccines have been, or the one vaccine has been fully FDA approved, if I'm not mistaken. Have you noticed as the vaccination rate among employees going up, has that been enough to push some people who hadn't been vaccinated to get vaccinated?
I haven't asked any of our employees whether or not they've been vaccinated. I have asked the department heads, and they haven't necessarily asked them, but they've kind of guessed around, and we figured we're a little bit over the 50%, probably 60 to hopefully up to 70% by now. But
a little bit of a tricky HR issue to come out and ask. So like in our company, we've done anonymous surveys, and our managers have a general idea just from conversation, their staffs and what their rates are, but we don't ask because of that. So I'm sure Aaron would say the same.
Yeah, I mean, it's tricky because it's medical information, and the EEOC has said that you can ask, but then the question becomes, whom is entitled to that information? You guys don't have a designated HR person, but you would have to probably designate somebody that would house that. Karen, you probably see all the medical information, right? So Karen would probably be the one who would be the one that would need to know that information, and then you kind of have to quarantine that information from everybody else. So Karen could have the information and tell Jordan what that percentage is, but
Not who is and who is not.
not who is and who is not, because then that becomes medical information for those individuals. So it does become tricky to gather that
So you
information.
can ask,
You can ask, yes.
can you mandate it?
Well,
I see some companies or groups or businesses or whatever, which we are a business really.
Yeah.
Are mandating it.
Yeah.
Can you do it?
yeah, so the EEOC has said that you can mandate vaccines, but you still have to allow for exemptions. So your medical and religious exemptions,
Right.
you would
Okay.
still have to allow for
Okay.
that. Yeah.
Okay.
The one thing I just always caution is that once somebody submits an exemption, they really have a retaliation bubble around them for the unforeseen future, right? So sometimes we see retaliation cases for a year. They have like a year protection from that. We've seen cases up to 5 years. So that's the struggle and the legal concerns that we see. But yes, employers can mandate the vaccine. Yep.
Jordan, were you able to look into it all to incentives we can give instead of mandating, but incentives that we can provide?
no, I did not. I did not.
Including it in the wellness program or something like that. Might be a good idea.
No, but that's a good idea, and I'll write that down, and I can get with Erin and talk with her about that.
Yeah, and that is something that we've looked at for other companies that we represent. Again, one of the issues you have is you have to have an alternative for folks that do have exemptions. So those folks that come in with valid medical and religious exemptions, there has to be some kind of incentive offering for them as well. And so a lot of our clients have said, well, that kind of defeats the purpose, because the folks that are not getting vaccinated usually are the ones that are going to have a valid exemption. So that's something we can take a deep dive into, but that's kind of where we've landed.
What are our percentages now? I haven't checked for a while. Like, are things going down? I mean, I've anecdotally have heard that, like,
The
case.
The positive,
article that I read from the CDC today showed that the vaccinated are not nearly as high, and you can probably speak on this better than I would, but I've seen the article today said that the vaccinated are really staying quite level compared to the unvaccinated when it's going into hospitalizations and using ventilators and things like that.
It appears we've probably reached a delta peak, knock on wood.
so how are we locally in terms of hospitalization, percentage of or cases of hospitalization? How are we? Because you'd spoken before that the positive test was not a reliable, the percentage of positive tests was not a reliable indicator this time. So are we looking at the number of hospitalizations in Story County compared to other times since March 2020? Where do we, is there any Story County data coming out?
I don't know that Mayor Greeley reports. I'd have to see what they report, because that would probably be the most,
I've only seen
Germane.
data.
yeah.
I haven't seen the kind of data that was available before, not even close to that type of
Well, yeah, I
data.
thought, well, because some of it's not as reliable as it was.
And IDPH puts out like a graphic every day, and it's still, 90% of cases are unvaccinated in the hospitals, type of consistency there.
Just like to add one thing, if we are gonna incentivize getting the vaccination, I would definitely recommend giving some incentive to the ones that have already gotten it.
Right, that's.
That was gonna be where I was gonna
I
backtrack,
think
that
that's kind of,
if we've seen any
Yeah.
kickback anywhere and on people that said, well, I got vaccinated, why is everyone else getting incentivized and I did the right thing to start with, or wrong thing, whatever.
Yeah.
But have you seen any kickback of any companies that are incentivizing, and the people are coming to them and saying, what about us? We already did it,
So what we're seeing for a lot of them is that if you've been vaccinated, they'll put you in a lottery system, and then there's some kind of lottery winning. So that would be they'll like announce that it's going to happen at the end of the year, for example. When we've got one big employer right now that's doing this rollout, and they're going to have a lottery at the end of the year. So they're giving everyone enough time to get their 2 rounds. And then anyone who's been vaccinated within, since they started offering vaccines, can be part of this lottery to win.
So in that lottery, let's say we decide to do that. I'm not saying we are, but can it be monetary? Can it be, are we limited on what the lottery can be?
Yeah.
Or do we have to include it as a bonus or something if it's monetary, or how does that work?
Well, so there's not like a magic threshold, right? So what they've said is that they can't, the actual verbiage is escaping me, but it can't be like so high that it's coercive, so that it makes it involuntary, right? So, if you were offering a car, for example, that would probably be too high of a threshold for this size of an organization. Now, maybe some huge conglomerate could pull that off and it would be okay, because the likelihood of winning would be so small that it wouldn't, whatever. But so there is some threshold. We just don't really know what it is.
So it can be a gift card to some
Maybe a gift
restaurant.
card. We're seeing really $100 or less, and that's even getting on the high side probably. So yeah, we have to be cautious. But again, we don't have a black and white line right now.
Okay.
Would it have to be a lottery? Could it just be anyone that did it in 2021? Do it by the end of the year?
Yep. Nope. It could absolutely be something different than that.
Could it
I like that
be
better.
an extra day? The equivalent, like a day off or 2 days
PTO.
or whatever.
Yeah. So we've seen a lot of like just 4 hours of PTO.
Yeah.
Type of a thing. Again, with the PTO, if you're giving a week, that's probably going to be
Too much.
considered into that involuntary range. But we've seen a lot of the 4-hour PTO offerings, so.
With the wellness program, don't we have different variables of things that if they go and do, each year,
Smoking
then it,
cessation in there.
right, and if it ends up being, if you do so many things and you get a
Day off.
I can't remember how it all works. It's included in that, and you submit a vaccine card, whether you got it, a year ago
Anytime,
or
yeah.
tomorrow, then it's just part of the yearly program and then. that
Not
includes
creating a new
everybody.
incentive.
Right.
Make it one of the thresholds on the
So
wellness
it
program.
just goes into the
Yeah, it'd be
calculation.
the same thing, like if you go to a dentist yearly, you get an extra $50 on that.
Right,
That
you get a
paycheck.
physical or whatever, yeah.
That would be-
Yeah, we should look at some options on that. I think that's a good idea to
Yeah.
incentivize them. How we do that, I think it's a good idea to do it though, because you wish that they would just do it, but everyone's different, so.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Well, and something like that really makes it available to everyone. Brett was talking about 2021. There weren't vaccines before that available. So that it's pretty clean.
Just have to figure out something for those exemption people.
Yeah.
Sounds like we have some staff homework to do to bring back next time. Anything else on that topic? Okay, then move on to D, pay request number 3 for the wastewater treatment facility improvements, phase 2 for Williams Brothers Construction, the amount of $1,021,270.89.
Move to approve. Second.
Jason and Luke, any discussion? Seeing none, council please vote.
There it goes.
Okay, that's approved. Takes us to new business, resolution number 12, 2021-2022. Resolution declaring intent to provide economic development support to development project at 1122 6th Street. And this one would be for Harmony Clothing Closet, and that was one that they'd reached out to me asking for letters of support and things like that for a grant they're going towards. And I asked Jordan if we could do some sort of assistance structure like we've been doing for Main Street with a percentage towards the grant to try to make it a bit more competitive for them to get that. So that's where this item has come from.
Have any thought to multi-use space? I mean, that space currently is creating traffic one day a week. Is there any way, has there been any creative thought about multi-use or some way of, really doing something that, like to the, more like creatively, more like just not just building repair, but some other twist?
And there's been some discussion with Main Street about, long-term, would it make sense to facilitate other avenues for Harmony?
Right.
That might make sense foot traffic wise. When we get to the point that, because obviously we've talked Main Street's goal is to eventually make the best use of those storefronts
Right.
for business. So at some point it might make sense that, there's another property they could swap or something like that. But I think that's probably a more longer term conversation. So at this point, I don't know that there's been a talk about a multi-use per se. It's more of there's a lot of immediate work that needs done. So they want to get that taken care of and then figure out maybe long-term, there might be some other strategy involved. And same thing like the Historical Society talks about their museum and maybe they'd want to swap out for something else too. And so I think we have some properties that at some point might change hands in the nonprofit world downtown, but.
Yeah, because you don't want the property to go into any disrepair, while some of this is happening. But I just wondering if they had a vision about being open more often. Or
Yeah, and I haven't spoken with the folks at Harmony about it. That's just more of a discussion that I know Henry's had with some of the Main Street folks about. They're keeping their eyes open for maybe if there's a better spot and it would be a win-win. But
move to approve.
Second.
Barb and Luke, any discussion on that further? None, council please vote. think that is approved. Takes us to resolution number 13, 2021-2022, a resolution to support the micro enterprise loan matching grant. An exciting one.
I'll move for approval.
Second. Sandy and Dane. And then if you have any questions, I know we have both Brenda and Jordan here who have been working on this program. I got briefed on a little bit last meeting, can't remember.
Dane and I did.
We do, guys, yeah.
Cool stuff. I'm glad we're able to.
Yeah, so basically it's, you guys have probably heard us talk about the Cdbg grants and things like that for facades we've talked about. Well, this is a new program that's limited. So discussion was, let's go for this one and then worry about facades or something like that later, because that's a program that always exists.
Mhm.
So this would really help to boost some small businesses. Any other discussion?
We know what the timeline for knowing if we've been successful. If the application successful? And like, what's next steps how do we reach out to those folks that have less than 5 employees?
So good evening all. I've talked all day, so excuse my voice. But the next really important step is an informational meeting that we're going to have with any interested business. Specifically, we're targeting micro enterprises, so 5 or less employees. That can include the owner. That meeting is going to occur on Monday night here at the council chambers, starting at 5:30. If you hear of a business that says, I have a conflict, I've got a kid playing a volleyball game, a JV football game, whatever it might be, what we're doing that night is actually collecting just some basic information about the business. What would they use the funds for? How many employees do they have? What would they anticipate their request to be? And so we have a really simple form, and it's clear at the bottom too, that we can't, just because they fill out the form, assure that they're going to get funding, but we're trying to collect interest. So if you have folks, Jordan has that form, I have that form, we'll meet with them, we'll follow up with them if they cannot be here on Monday night. So as part of that resolution, we're actually going to prepare a grant writer, Cdbg, our complicated applications. And the mayor will appoint a couple of you and a couple others to serve on that committee should we have multiple proposals to do that grant writing. And more importantly, the administration on the backside to also ensure that as we move through the loan process, that we're doing that in a fair manner, a transparent manner, and that there's really a process to evaluate those applications in case we have more interest than what we have funds. So all of that. So next meeting, I'll be back with you at the end of the month. Hopefully we'll have a proposal to react to, and we can get the ball rolling and actually getting the application written. So it's first come, first serve, and that's the urgency to keep the process moving. I think they're entertaining them as they come in, Barb. So still, it's pretty complicated. It'd be great if we could launch a program before the end of the year. So I think that would be aggressive. But again, the important thing is to get folks that might be interested, to have digital media pages as you talk to people. Even if they show up and find out they're not eligible, I'd rather have them here to answer the questions or ask questions than not to come at all. So Jordan and I got pretty much our plan and a plan of attack. So we're asking NEDC, we're asking the Main Street Board to do the same. So we're not relying just on you all, but we're trying to get the message out through as many channels as we can.
So Brenda, have you had any interest yet?
I believe there's already interest, yes. So I think you've talked to a few people, I think, and I think there is already interest, Sandy.
Great.
So.
Yeah, I sent it to a few and I think they're going to come.
Yeah. And please feel free to show up too on Monday. You're used to having Monday obligations. So then you can kind of see for yourself the interest, and obviously your contribution as well as the NEDC's contribution. I think that local match is allowing us to strengthen that application. Any other questions for me about the micro enterprise application? Good. We're also excited. It'll be a lot of fun if we can get this funding.
Okay. Any other discussion on that? Seeing none, council please vote. That is approved. Takes us to item C, resolution number 14, 2021-2022, resolution to approve the vendor agreement with Micah to administer the new low-income home water assistance program.
Move to approve. Second.
Okay, so we have Brian and Luke. Any discussion there? None, council please vote. And that is approved. Takes us to resolution number 15, 2021-2022. Resolution to provide for a notice of hearing on proposed plan specifications from contract, estimate of cost for the Nevada Wastewater Treatment Facility Improvements Phase 3 project and the taking of bids therefore.
Move to approve.
Second.
Jason, Barb. Any other discussion? Seeing none, council please vote. I think that's approved. Takes us into reports. Kicking it over to city administrator.
All right, so some of the meetings, I had a weekly meeting with Brenda and we talked, this last meeting was mostly about micro enterprise loans. So, he asked if we had any interest. I've talked to one person and she spoke with 3 other business owners. So that's a total of 4 that we have interested that I have, reached out to. Like Brenda said, Henry, I believe, has a few people and Brenda has some as well. So that's been really great and it works for any employer that is 5 and under employee wise outside of the Main Street District as well. So that's great. Also had our monthly economic development meeting that we had in NBC. Had our school traffic meeting this morning regarding 8th Avenue and J Avenue and have some things that we're going to be working on with that. Had a meeting with Aaron last week regarding our ordinances and I think we're making good progress on those and should have a lot of that probably hopefully squared up and ready to view in front of you guys by November. Some of them sooner than that, but a lot of them probably in November. Also had our employee tailgate this last Friday, which was a really good turnout. We ran out of food around 2:15 and it was supposed to end at 3. So that was awesome that we ran out. Saturday coffee, we did have that and it was a smaller group this last week and we did accomplish, I don't know, a lot, but or not too much, but I just hung out and talked for the first half hour about just random stuff and then city stuff for the remainder of the time. So it was fun and good to catch up. And then the other thing that Jim is doing right now is he's been doing research on the yard waste program. And we've also been talking with other communities about how they do theirs and the struggles, the positives with it as well. So those are some of the things that I've been doing. I also sent in my report. So if you guys have questions about that, I'd be happy to answer with those.
Council, anything for Jordan? Okay, so for my report, a couple of quick kudos. One, Main Street and Lincoln Highway Days Committee. It was a really good festival, I think, and I think the community really enjoyed it and excited to see where that goes building on for next year. And then Ray, I want to give him a shout out for his stair climb for 9/11. I'm sure he'll talk about it more, but it's really special. I appreciate all the work he puts into making that a very special event. Otherwise, yeah, we continue to move the Vision 2040 along. So had another meeting with the Visioning Committee last week to keep going through the public comment, kind of mostly organizing it at this point because it's just putting things in the various buckets and figuring out what the strategies and the goals are and who's responsible for what. So We'll continue to work through that and keep everybody in the loop there. We had a good meeting with Story County Medical about what their vision is for their two campuses and whatnot to keep us in the loop on that. I know Karen will talk about the audit, so I won't talk too much about that, but had the entrance meeting for that. I was like, I think I just got the last report and they're already asking for an entrance meeting. Speaking of Main Street, they're working on plans for Christmas on Main, so keep your eyes peeled for marketing on that for the beginning of December. So that'll be, they're hoping to take that up a notch too and do some new exciting things for that. And then we're working with some of those same folks about a spring festival. So don't have too many details about that because it's still up in the air, but we'll keep everybody in the loop once we know more. Then the last thing we talked, came up on social media and was a good reminder to circle back to the traffic issue we were talking about and working with the school before COVID blew up on everybody and diverted their attention. So Jordan and I and Rick met with the school staff this morning to talk through that and have some potential ideas to investigate to make transit between the two campuses safer for kids. So once we have more details, we can loop everybody in, but I think it went really well and it plays well into the Vision 2040 discussion about better connectivity for pedestrians and bikes. So it really fits nicely with some of the strategies that are probably going to come out in the vision plan anyway. So it'll serve that purpose and help with the school and help with safety for kids. So excited about some of those potentials, but we'll have engineers and staff vet them before I put anything out that'll show up all over social media like it's the final plan.
Also, Lincoln Highway Days, police and fire for the parade and everything. They did a really good job with that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So city staff just support for Lincoln Highway Days too. Want to make sure we thank them. So I know our public safety department, public works, I mean, I think it's most of our departments help in some capacity for the festival. So it's very much appreciated. Okay. Any questions for me? And then we'll go to council reports.
So an update about the water main break? Is it, I mean,
Yep.
is it healed?
Yep, so a lot of you probably noticed we're doing some new work on our brand new road that we have in front of here on Lincoln Highway. We did have a directional bore that hit a water main, our brand new water main that was installed, and that was the reason why we had to tear up the new concrete. So we did get that fixed late Friday evening. Our water department was out there, same with Ryan. They were out there pretty late on a Friday and they're able to get that accomplished. So good that we got that finished and now we can continue to move on. We were planning on opening it up for 2-lane, but that is probably not going to happen anytime soon. Hopefully within the next 2 weeks, we can do something along those lines, but it is fixed. They did find a problem and we just need to restart the process for that little section.
So is there, do we have any recourse with the folks that hit it?
We are,
I don't know.
Yeah, we're moving
what
through
is customary. It seems like it's a brand new road. Why didn't they do the boring before the concrete?
that's a great question.
A layperson.
Yeah, no, we're trying to figure out what the right recourse is for what happened and
Was it not part of the construction project?
it was not. This was pertaining to Windstream's project that was starting, I believe, a year ago, heading all the way north an extra couple of blocks. So we did have our lines marked out. So we have some things that we have to figure out, and that is something I will be discussing with Aaron about.
That was sounds like fun.
Yeah.
Nothing like keeping the highway closed for another couple weeks.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like we were out of town, but it sounds like it was, it was not just a little leak.
We had notes around Lincoln Highway and it was quite the scene for half a day. I mean, it was very interesting, I will say, but.
I thought it was odd when I was walking along J that morning and heard a whole bunch of water rushing through the storm sewer right
Yeah.
there. And I'm like, it has not rained in a long time.
Yeah, no, Yeah, Construct did a good job cleaning that up, and our guys did a really good job with everything as well. So I'm glad that we got it taken care of. It took a lot longer than we were anticipating, and it was unfortunate.
Yeah, that hurts.
The council reports.
So we had, this thing called Lincoln Highway Days that Brett kind of touched on. I think it went really smooth. I don't know how everybody else thought, but other than being 90-some degrees out and blazing hot, we had lots of people still come up. It was a little bit less of a crowd than 2 years ago, but all things considered, I think it was a pretty good event, a lot of good turnout. People were selling out of food, so that's always a good sign for the vendors that way. But yeah, I thought it worked out pretty well. Looking forward to our follow-up meeting so we can all kind of, everybody on the committee can kind of get their thoughts out on the table and see what we can do for next year. Make it better. And then we also had, can't remember, when did we have our wastewater meeting? Was that last week?
It was
Since the last meeting. So you can
It was
report
since
on it.
last- Okay, good. So I didn't miss it last meeting then. So we had our 90% design meeting about a week ago or so. And that's why we went with the go-ahead on phase 3. So I think we pretty much got the design knocked down. I mean, other than, yeah, that's a pump and that's a motor, I don't really know much about wastewater treatment. So I always leave that up to the people in charge of taking care of that on a daily basis, but look good. I can't wait to see the final place. It's gonna be really cool. So.
Thanks for your leadership on
Yeah.
Lincoln Highway Days. That's terrific.
Absolutely. Pass along the committee. It was a great event.
It's not just me, man. There's a lot of people helping out.
Somebody has to be in
A
charge.
lot of people helping out. It wasn't me.
You were taking the heat at the last meeting, so you get the credit at the
I was not in charge of that. I'm just one of the wheels in the cog. So.
Okay, other reports?
I want to give a shout out to the arena and recognize them, and they partnered with Runners United Nevada on a new event yesterday, and they had over 100 people turn out for it, and it raised, I don't know what the final number is, but it was significantly over $10,000 for the Bliss Cancer Center. So I think that's very much worthy of a public shout out. I would echo everything as far as Lincoln Highway Days. I know walking around, and I guess I can let Ray or Andrew speak more specifically to how things went with the alcohol sales around the grounds, but it seemed like it was going pretty smoothly from where I was at. And then I have a question for you. Did you ever hear anything more from Jeremy about the damage to the trail by 19th Street?
No, I did not.
Okay. I just thought that was sitting here.
Council reports? Okay, Brenda, do you have anything you would like to add for council tonight? Yeah, you can come up and talk about it.
I know that some of you have RSVP'd for the joint NEDC and Nevada Main Street city visit. We're going to be paying a trip up to Osage. So the pregnancies are from Osage. My prior time in economic development was in Mitchell County, and Osage is the county seat community. We've got I think Jordan has shared the schedule for the day. It's a real fast and furious day, but I think some of the things that we've selected to talk about are things that we can learn a great deal from moving of historic buildings to lessons learned from a wellness center, to hearing even about project-based learning at the school district, and an opportunity to walk a town that's fully implemented a facade program through the Cdbg fund. So if you've not already RSVP'd, we'd love to have you join us. It is October 8th, correct? The Friday, and we will be back in time to get you off to a football game if you've got plans to do that. So anyway, so that's my only other report.
Thanks, Brenda.
No. I just want to apologize for walking in late. We've had 3 calls in the last hour and one of them was pretty significant trauma. So that's my excuse. 9/11 events really went off well. We started with a stair climb. We had 105 participants, including 1 airline pilot. So that was really neat. City administrator made the trip 7 times or something like that.
Once,
Yeah.
just once.
Once is good enough. It was kind of interesting. We did have 1 medical emergency. It was a heat exhaustion type incident. And I guess if you're going to have a heat exhaustion, you might as well do it on the top floor in front of 13 paramedics. So they were like vultures trying to treat him. So, but he did receive some treatment at the hospital, came back and joined us all afterwards and had some food from our vendor. So very appreciative of everyone that was there. It was, I don't know how we'll top the 20th anniversary. It was pretty significant and quite a memory. And from there, somehow my phone number became the contact for college game day. And so we were scrambling quite a bit. They borrowed our flag for the show. We transported the steel. We assisted in getting Ames, a fire truck, for the backdrop. And we were able to get over 50 first responders for their show. And there were quite a bit of requests between them and the athletic department that we were very honored to be a part of. 2 of our members got to escort the steel onto the field for the pregame. And then they let them stay and watch the entire game with an exceptional outcome.
That's right.
And other than that, it's been really busy at the fire department. I'm not sure what the uptick is, but and I did want to mention something. Lincoln Highway Days was really phenomenal. With the amount of alcohol that was sold and relatively minuscule events, I thought it was handled very well. The folks that were there from the JCs were very cognizant of their customers, and if there were problems, they just removed them. So I thought that was really good. And I think it's kind of indicative of this post-COVID world. I was shocked at the first football game. We've been working them. There were 2 arrests. 2 years ago, there was something like 48. At the Iowa game, there were 3 arrests with a sold-out crowd. And that certainly a couple of years ago, it was like 70. So I think individual responsibility is a key phrase that we're using around the fire department and COVID and our actions and everything else. And so I just wanted to bring that point up. So thank you.
Thank you, Rick. I have to say, Ray, the pork sandwiches were still the highlight of my Lincoln Highway Days, just like every year. Sorry.
Oh, that's my favorite.
I only had time to get up there and have one. I would.
I could have brought you one.
At a 9/11 memorial, which I should not have waited that long, but Ray and Chief Malvin's words were incredibly moving. The whole event was very well done. A full polyester uniform is not the way to do it. Lesson, but it was fun.
You look good though, Luke. You look good.
Yeah, I was soaked inside, but
I was like, oh no.
Authentic, right?
Good evening. I just have a couple updates. I think Ray touched on most of them. Lincoln Highway Days, I worked most of the day until about 5, and I thought it went really well. I know that there's a meeting to set up for talking about what can be improved for next year, but I think overall it went really well. Alcohol sales during the day, I think it was hot enough that most people weren't drinking beer or alcohol just because it's so hot. And the beer garden went well. I didn't hear of anything crazy going on there. So other than that, with staffing, we're wanting to hire 1 more. Our first testing day for physical agility and the post-test is on Saturday. So we're hoping to get that 1 more person. We'll be excited to have a full staff on paper. Officer Sidness is in his field training right now. He's within his first month, so a couple more to go, then he'll be on his own. And then the other two, I think this is their third week at the academy, so all good news there, so doing well. That's all I had. Anybody has any questions?
Is Josie back?
Josie is back. That is another update. Yeah, she is working shift and she's kind of working as along with another officer right now, not in the same car, but they're, she's right back where she left off. She's doing great. So no issues there at all, which we weren't anticipating either. So she's as far as attack. So
Dane mentioned yesterday's mention bolt. Sergeant Henderson was number 10, so he did a nice job. So congrats.
yeah, well, thank you. That was fun. That was a good success too. So any other questions?
I just want to comment, it's nice seeing our Nevada officers over at the football games again.
Yes, and we've been doing ISU games as well.
That's crazy when driving around the golf cart. It's kind of scary.
Yeah,
Can't win them all.
couple on bike and then I think we had a few in the golf cart. So yeah, we're back over there for the football games doing tailgate lots and it's been good. The Iowa State game was pretty tame. So, which I was surprised 2 years ago. I couldn't say that, but
You're a good luck charm for the good guys.
yeah.
I've mentioned it to some of the other sergeants too. I'd love to see you guys stop in at the Cubs games too, if you ever get a chance. I know you guys are short staffed, so I won't push too much, but just it would always, it's been nice when you guys have shown up.
Yeah, absolutely. We like getting in the school event, so I'll pass it along. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Karen?
Well, working on end of the year reports, the street finance report got pushed back to when all the others are due, December 1st. So I don't know whether that's a good thing or not, but we're working on them now. So that and the annual financial report, kind of starting on the budget already, getting the equipment revolving sent out to staff, department heads this week sometime. Looking to Cindy Acme, the league had a call with her and she talked about the Build Back Better Act. Another $1 trillion amount they're working on now, she said, but one of the things that they are looking for, that money would go to roads and bridges. So the other money hasn't really gone for that. It's been more water, sewer, those kinds of things. And then as Mayor said, the auditors are here, so we're getting the information for them. And next week is their last official week here. But they still always ask for still time. And I did make a comment in our entrance exam if we could sure get it before we did the last one. So hopefully that will give them a little push. We'll see. And I did want to say kudos to my staff. We've been working with one short person. She's still out. And Dawn have both stepped up and taken on those additional duties, and it's much appreciated. So.
Thanks, Karen. Before I forget, our new library director, Aaron,
Yeah.
do you have anything to report?
We're the process of interviewing for our associate library position that's been coming open now for a while, and then we just posted a community services library position. So there will be lots of stuff for the library.
Good. We all look forward to meeting you more, so welcome.
It's a great library, so I'm excited to be here.
Harry?
Been helping city staff, a number of issues, including, I mentioned your mid-state subdivision, which is the future home of the Ruby's Coffee Shop, and American Car Wash. And I think we've got the review done and got our concerns passed on to developers. So we should be seeing a final site plan about all that. So we'll in that. Before the next council meeting, we'll be getting an updated, project progress report from us. But on the downtown project, obviously, as Jordan mentioned, Lincoln Highway got paid, obviously a section of it that got moved. But, they're concentrating now on doing sidewalks and streetlights. Last week, they found an underground tank by the dance studio that no one knew about. Obviously, it was some type of tank that fed that building years and years and years ago. With some advice of some of our folks, it was recommended it can be removed without big hassle, and because there's obviously no product in it. It was about 3 to 4 inches of water at the bottom of it. So it's just about 1,000 gallon tank that could be removed. So I presume that's gone, or if not, it will be shortly. And it happened to be discovered by the contractor laying the conduit for the streetlights. So probably held them up a little bit, but should be proceeding nicely. The underground work in the last block of 6th Street is progressing nicely. There was an issue with one building or 2 buildings across the street that had the joint sewer and water services. The 2 sewer and water services have gone into each building. That got resolved, so everything's moving along pretty good. So with that, I'll take questions you might have.
Are there any concerns that we're not gonna get it done before the rainy season?
Would certainly hope not. The plan that they gave me was that it should be substantially complete by the end of October.
They're contractually obligated to have it done by then too, right?
That,
The contract says it has to be done by then as well, right?
We're looking at contract as a deadline?
yes.
It's the deadline for the contract.
November 1 is appreciated.
Is it on schedule?
So, yes,
Okay.
they should be done by the end of October, all weather rules. Planned completion date is November 1, final completion date December 1. All good.
Anything else for Larry? Thanks, Larry. Aaron?
Nothing for me.
Okay.
Hallelujah.
And anything else for council before the closed session? Okay, the next item will be closed session pursuant to Iowa Code Section 21.51I to evaluate the professional competency of an individual whose appointment, hiring, performance, or discharge has been considered when necessary to prevent needless and irreparable injury to that individual's reputation. That individual requests a closed session.
On the closed session.
Second. Dane. So, council, please vote.
Closed section.
I'd like to.
Yes.
So that's approved. So we'll go ahead and disconnect the Zoom and then you can take a couple minute break if needed.
Got recording quick, Karen.